Welcome back. Yes, as you've seen there, Professor Usman Yusuf joins us next. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today, Prof.
Thank you for having me, Chamberlain. Well,
the campaigns are thick and fast, inching towards breasting the tape on election day, the big election day, 25 February. We'll talk about that date as we progress. But how have you found this experience? I mean, is it new for you?
Very new. I'm from the hospital and bench research thrown into this. It's fun.
Is it?
It is.
Because, I mean, sometimes you hear politicians say one thing, they do some other things. Professionals are afraid to get close, to engage with the politicians. It's different for you.
Now, the reason, honestly, I got engaged, we all must. If we leave it to people we call politicians, nobody was born a politician. President Muhammad Buhari was a soldier, Obasanjo was a soldier. Everybody must get involved to fix this country. That and that alone is the only reason I got involved. And I encourage everybody to get involved.
So, have you been bitten by this bug too, this eternal optimistic bug? They see defeat staring them in the face, but they say, no, I'm going to be sworn in. All of them say the same thing.
Right. That's why we're here, to slap them and wake them up and tell them reality. That we have problems here, let's concentrate on that place. We are winning there, but don't ignore them. But for us, the campaign is looking good.
How good? I mean, why do you say so? Because there are several other areas that the APC will tell you we are way stronger than the PDP, because PDP, the Labour Party, are taking a chunk of what's going on with them. They're not sure how the 5 governors may go. So all of those uncertainties, they say, appears to have chipped away at the block of that of the PDP. So where do you still get confidence from?
Right. Is there a bigger confusion than we are seeing now in the APC? Right? They are blaming the government they brought in, themselves brought in. They are saying it's the fault of the government that we have fuel scarcities and this naira. Is their policy, or it's just like in the classroom, primary school, secondary school, we raise our hands and say, 2 fighting. They're fighting themselves. We are organized, we are reaching our base, we are talking to people in the language they understand and telling them it will be suicidal for you to re-elect APC again. They came with 3 points: 1, to control insecurity, corruption, and improve the economy. Our question to all Nigerians is, is your life better today than it was 8 years ago? Definitely not.
But that question is a question that I don't know which Nigerian can answer that question, and in a more realistic way, because almost every government that comes in, their lives have not always been better eventually.
I'll tell you the Nigerians that will answer that question, the ones that I know. In Katsina, where I come from, where the president comes from, before 2015, before they came, we never knew what IDPs are. When they talk about IDPs, we used to think about Northeast. Now we have 1/3 of my state is under siege by bandits. Our capital city is filling up with IDPs, IDPs we never saw. Poverty. The National Bureau of Statistics came up with numbers. 133 million Nigerians are in multi-dimensional poverty under a government that promised us over the last 8 years that they were going to take 100 million people out of poverty over 10 years. That is 10 million per annum. So what have they been doing?
Big questions. I know that after you left the NHIS, you I do not know whether you were a member of the Northern Elders Forum while at the same time a member of the NHIS, but I mean, we heard you speak more on the platform of the Northern Elders Forum after you left the NHIS. There was a huge controversy, I remember, when you left, and you had to try to clear that up a bit in the media. But in the Northern Elders Forum, you started speaking up more, will I say, a little more loudly in the wake of the banditry that started to overtake certain parts of Nigeria. Some of the solutions which you proposed, however, were not, were quite controversial. It would seem that you were asking that the bandits be paid more attention to. It almost sounded like as if you were advocating for the bandits, who had wreaked havoc on the lives of many Nigerians. What precisely would you, I do not know whether the stance of the Northern Elders Forum is what the PDP is taking as how it intends to fight insecurity, especially in that area, or is your stance as a member of the Northern Elders Forum different from what the PDP is proposing to do in terms of dealing with insecurity in Northwest,
especially? Very good question, Mokwe. And I don't know if Northern Elders Forum has a stand on insecurity. Every Northerner, you reach the age of 50, 55, you're automatically a member. It's up to you to be actively involved. Okay. We went into the forest, I and Shegumi and the rest of the team, not at the behest of any government or any group. We did because we must. This is our place, this is our people. And I've said it again and again. These Fulani kids you see, they are our flesh and blood. Just like IPOB, unknown gunmen are Igbos. Just like Boko Haram are Kanuris. What we have realized is that we elders in all 6 geopolitical zones have lost control of our youth. And we cannot just sit down and say, oh, government, government, government. The security of this country, we all know that. I don't need to tell you, Mokwe, is the responsibility of everybody. We don't have enough boots on the ground. We've been to 8 forests in the north, 5 in the northwest, 3 in the northeast, in north central. Why? Martin Luther King said, violence is the language of the unheard. We have lived together with these people. Why are we where we are?
Prof, you say we have been to the forest. Who are we?
We, I, Shegumi, and Shegumi's delegation. For the last 2-3 years, we have met all these heads of bandits. Why? We went to here, and we would come back and speak with the elders, with traditional rulers, with clerics, with their elders, and with the governors. We'll hear from the governors and go into the forest. Not at the behest of Northern Elders Forum, or government, or the military. None.
So you separate what you were doing with Shegumi from, you were not speaking as a member of the Northern Elders Forum?
Not now, not he. No, I'm not speaking on behalf. There is a spokesman, very, very eloquent one, to my older brother, Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed. He will speak. But on insecurity, banditry, we have invested. I've invested 3 years of my life getting to know what the problem is, because we must. If all Igbo elders had gotten involved in this unknown gunmen, they are not unknown. They are Igbo kids. Every elder must get involved in the insecurity in his part of the country. That's the only way we can solve this problem.
So what do you make? I mean, because, you know, all of this has been a little blurry ever since I think a member of that delegation, you know, I do not know. I'm still trying to recall what position he held, but he was said to be a journalist, will I say interceding also on behalf of people who were held. I do not know how much. Did you have any intercessory role when people were taken on the train tracks in the wake of the Abuja Kaduna train kidnap? I do not know whether you played any role in that instance.
I was the secretary of CDAC, Chief of Defense Staff Action Committee. 7 of us, 3 generals, retired generals, myself, a diplomat, an academic, Fulani elder.
On the side of the government?
Yes, we invested 6 months of our life. This didn't happen on the 28th.
There was somebody who was arrested.
Yes.
You're aware of that
He's not part of the committee. He never was.
He never was?
No, never. He was never part of CDAC, CDSAC, Chief of Defense Staff Action Committee. I was the secretary, and I was the one that made the statement when we got them out, the last ones out.
Do you think that there is, I mean, some people will say that, you know, at some point we need to have voices that are neutral, voices that are apolitical, especially if you've been in situations like that. Do you think that getting involved in partisan politics is the best way to, you know, really push this agenda which you have in terms of what you would like to see in terms of development, say, for instance, in the North?
Absolutely. And the problem is our broken politics. I'm a physician. If I sit in the hospital and see only patients, it is that politician that will determine what I do in the hospital. You must get involved. Unless doctors get involved, healthcare will not improve. Unless ASU members, lecturers from the university get involved in politics, education will never change in this country.
There are many ways of getting involved. Do you have to join political parties?
Oh yeah, absolutely. How do you get involved? Virtual? You must get involved.
But in that same Katsina, what you spoke about, the president did say to the people there, look, don't disgrace my party. Vote us because we've done the best that we can. And the feedback he said they got is the people say, yes, we will vote for you. But now you say that they see something completely different.
And you believe him. Let me tell you, our politics in Katsina has been vibrant from the beginning, since Tele before. We are not the people that anyone will say, vote for this. If President Muhammad Buhari himself raises his hand in Katsina, we will not vote for him. People are fed up. People are tired.
Did they lie to him that they will vote for him, his party?
Who said, this is the crowd, hired crowd, they brought them from Kano? We saw the buses.
From Kano?
Absolutely. Ganduje loaded them up from Kano, and these politicians do a lot of stuff. But so don't believe the optics. The reality is on the ground. So
what about the PDP? Don't they hire crowd themselves too?
No, we're not crowd hirers. We're real McCoy. We're real politicians.
I'm sorry I have to go back to this insecurity of a matter, because some people will say that, at some point, when we see insecurity on the ground and we have voices speaking up against it or looking for solutions to it, you have to ask what their interests are. Is it so that it can now become a sort of advantage for them in politics, or is it really because they're interested in helping to get solutions?
Question for me?
Indeed.
I have no joy in joining this politics. My joy is fixing the mess APCs live into this country. I have seen firsthand. This is not somebody coming and telling me. A third of my state is under siege. I have never seen as much poverty as I've seen. Each time I go to Katsina, I come back, I'm heartbroken.
The abandonment which you speak of, would you say that it started today? Is it something that happened under the last 7 years, or is it something that has been building up over a while and maybe got to a head in the last 7 years?
Yeah, it's a broken politics. I mean, it's a broken politics. Politicians get into office not to serve, but to serve themselves and their families. We must change that paradigm, and you can only change it if you get into the trenches. And that's why we're getting into the trenches, because we see the sufferings of our people.
What are the solutions which your party is proposing? Because we've seen different solutions come up. For instance, for the Almajiris, in the time of President Goodluck Jonathan, there were schools, Almajiri schools built. Today, most of those schools have been abandoned. They are not in use. A number of them now serve as IDP camps, and some of them are really not in use. What exactly is the solution that your party is proposing to address the issue of insecurity, and also addressing the millions of children who are out of school who could eventually become fodder for this sort of insecurity in future?
Right. So this is when we were growing up, and I grew up the same time as Nasiru El-Rufai and Sheikh Gumi. We were in Zaria together in 1976. We didn't have flyovers. Leaders of that time invested in us. That's why I'm able to come to this studio and talk to you in big English. They invested in us. These were leaders we still pray for. Leaders of today, they don't have human investment. What they invest in is flyovers and tarmac. Do not invest in people. Out of school children, 20 million out of school children. 80 million of them are up across over the Niger. Us here. The Minister of Education himself, Adamu, said he's not proud of being the longest serving education minister because he's not been able to reduce that. So you have poverty, you have out of school children, you do not invest in poverty. Instead of waging war on poverty, you are buying billions of dollars worth of Tucano jet. You can never bomb grievances or poverty.
Let's bring in our colleagues in Lagos.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Prof, to take up from where you just stopped now, wouldn't you say that we had the solutions right in our faces, but we've just been looking at a different place? I say that in the light of the comments you made about governors governors have responsibilities, but it would seem like most of the time we over-focus on the presidency, whose job is it, for instance, to ensure that primary education goes the way it ought to go, secondary education goes the way it ought to go, as opposed to the universities? Wouldn't you say, for instance, that in terms of taking children back to the schools, the governors, the state governors, 14 of them members of your party, the PDP, have their own responsibilities? But unfortunately, it would seem that we focus more on the responsibility of the federal government as opposed to that of state governments in this regard.
No, absolutely, you're right. And the most important person to a people is the governor, not the president. And what happened is that all the 36 governors, they have emasculated local governments. Local governments are the ones that build schools, they are the ones that take care of little dispensaries, primary healthcare clinics, but the local government fund is with the state governor. You go to all the 700 and something local governments, nothing to do, because the money is at the center. So if the money does not trickle in for people to do the little things, take care of the little things, nothing will happen. So local governments, they are the government closest to the people. They need to have their funding. Governors need to be able to do that. And governors need to govern with the milk of human kindness. I do not see that. I do not see that. So this is where we are today. Governors need to do better, and the president at the center needs to be able to shake them up and ask them to do the right thing. Well, it is not enough to say, oh, there is separation of power.
Yeah, it would then seem that we're not even hearing the voices of your own governorship candidates making some of these comments along the line of the things that you have said. What will the governors themselves do? Or is it a global policy, a global manifesto of the PDP that the governors themselves are compelled to line up with?
Right. I mean, and there is no template for every governor to do. I mean, things have to be taken and domesticated according to the states. But every governor, every gubernatorial candidate know their responsibility to their people, and they need to do better. This is a solemn responsibility, and many of these governors are not taken seriously. That is why we all must come in and raise our voices. And it doesn't matter the richer state to the poorer state. The richer the state, the more corruption. We are where we are today because of twin evils of corruption and bad governance. You take care of these two, we won't have all of these problems. And now, all the governors are guilty as charged.
Okay. 21 of those governors are members of Europe, the major opposition party to yours. And your party has 14 of those governors in office as at this day. What in that regard would you say the chances of your party are to win at the seat, at the federal government seat in Abuja and across the 36 states?
Yeah, our chances are good. Remember, President Muhammad Buhari came with how many governors? The CPC, he had only one governor in Nasarawa State. The beauty of democracy is that people will make that choice. And that choice will be made on the 25th. And I hear some governors saying they are the leaders, they are the governors, they decide. No, the only place you decide now, after the primaries, is your government house. Now the choice is for the people. And I tell youth wherever I go, your PVC is stronger than AK-47 or AK-49. Line up, cast your ballot. And we are here to make sure that your votes count. So long as we have a free and fair and credible election, we don't have any doubt our candidate will win. And I must commend the President and Commander-in-Chief, President Muhammadu Buhari. He seems committed to leave a legacy of a free, fair, and credible election. And INEC, the chairman of INEC and his staff, they are doing a great job. I've never met him or any of the staff, but it's a Herculean task, and we commend them for that, and we commend all security agencies. But I call on every Nigerian, every citizen, especially our elders, our traditional rulers and clerics, to come in and lay their authority and their voices to have a peaceful pre-election, during election, and after election. Democracy is not a do-or-die thing. You win is the people's choice. You lose is the people's choice. And that day will come on the 25th. May the best man win. And that best man, in my opinion, is undoubtedly Atiku Abubakar.
Yes, interesting, Professor Yusuf. Good morning, and it's good to see you again. I'm interested in your... Yes, I'm interested in your new political leaning. In the outgoing administration, you served at a time as Executive Secretary of the NHIS. And one would particularly say that you, after your exit from the NHIS, that you spoke of the administration in glowing terms. So it's interesting to see you now, speaking for the opposition, the People's Democratic Party. First of all, what informed your affiliation with the PDP now? Would one say that it's a protest, following your the way you were removed as NHIS boss?
No. I'm just exercising my right as a citizen to choose whatever party, and that's what I'm exercising. And to be honest, Bukola is, someone, for goodness sake, who in his right senses will ask to go back to APC what they've done to this country? Honestly, that's the only reason. The reason is APC is not going to be a choice for Nigerians. They have put this country in a ditch. And we are not going to the driver, the driver, they cannot just change a driver and expect that car will come out. No, we need a change. And that change is Atiku Abubakar, undoubtedly. This country is in the ICU. I'm a doctor, 41 years and counting. If a patient in the ICU, you need an experienced doctor, not a rookie. That doctor undoubtedly is Atiku Abubakar.
But I mean, they will also tell you in the APC that, look, we've got a doctor too. He's been there in the polity and hanging around, been around, made people for a while. So he understands diagnosis, political diagnosis, and they think that he should be the one to occupy that seat.
Good. And I made the diagnosis a long time ago. I said, Bola Ahmed Tinubu's politics has always been regional, especially in Lagos. Why is the Alpha and Omega? Nobody challenges him. Yes, he's built people. He has no experience on the national front. And his inexperience is showing. In the North, he's not talking to people in the North.
How so?
He's subcontracting. Notice, he's subcontracting the campaign in the North to praise singers and APC governors. When he comes to the hustings, the campaign hustings, he only dances and leaves. And I've said it long time ago, I hope his campaign listened. None of the APC governors in the North has the goodwill of the people to deliver anything to him.
None of them?
None. None. How many are there? 14?
What about the president? He's his chief campaigner. He said he will be handing over to an APC candidate. He's very optimistic about that.
Yeah, he wishes, but the choice is ours. And we're not going to allow that to happen.
Has he lost all his influence all of a sudden, the president?
The president?
His goodwill?
Absolutely, and I said it. There has never been a president. I am old enough to have seen 13 administrations from that of General Yakubu go on to now. There has never been, out of that 13, an administration that came with this much goodwill, nationally and internationally. This goodwill has been squandered over the last 8 years. Squandered. Over the last 8 years. Not listening to people, arrogance of power, this messianic complex, and intellectual laziness. Not engaging with people, not listening to our problems. So how can this is the power of the electorate now that we are going to exercise. That the power of the electorate is our PVC, and we are going to change. This is what democracy offers us, that no other form of government offers us. And the president knows that. And he's a decent enough a human being to realize, even if it is his only son, contests and loses election, he will not do anything compared to all the other previous presidents.
It will be an interesting one as it plays out because, well, we don't know how this things will play out. But Prof and all the other party members always said that their candidates will breast the tape. So I guess we'll wait and see, because if they all will breast the tape, whose event are you going to attend? Well, Prof, thank you for coming on, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back in just a moment. We'll look at some parts of the law for you. We'll tell you why when we return. Stay with us.